Welcome to the Powderhorn Podcast, part of the okayest podcast network, where host Jared Gomez covers everything that goes bang. From grandpa's lever action to cutting-edge tactical gear, this is your go-to for sharpening skills, building confidence, and geeking out on the rich past and bold future of shooting sports.
And then, so here we are, another episode of the Powderhorn Podcast, and I met Clover walking around the shows a couple years ago, and he is, I like to just call him kind of a little bit of a media Jedi, because he's got a great system going on. He's walked through the industry. If you've ever been to an NRA, Goals, SHOT Show, you know him. You may not, if you've never talked to him, you've seen him. His shirts speak loudly, you know, in his personality. He hugs everyone he sees, and anytime I see him at a show, my eyes light up, because I know it's just great to see an old friend, a kindred spirit that's walking around. So I thought I'd get you on the show tonight, and we would talk about what it's like to be a media guy. And maybe, you know, I'm not going to say you're like a professional media guy in the regard that like you work for like the large magazines or anything like that. You're one of those independent creators that's out there doing his thing. You're doing it really well. So, you know, kind of introduce people to who you are, where they can find you on the internet. And then I want to hear your journey. You know, we talk about gun owners, but, you know, tonight I want to talk about guys that kind of make their living, you know, talking about guns.
Right. Well, I guess first of all, clovertac.com is the easiest way, because the reach is shallow and wide. It's definitely not deep, but from writing articles to the podcast to the YouTube videos to social media to other things. So clovertac.com is going to get you the swag. It's going to get you the links to the Camarado apparel. It's going to get you, all the different platforms, because everybody uses their own platforms, right? I just got an email, as a matter of fact, from a gentleman, had some questions on the video for a company, and he doesn't know. So I'm like, Instagram DM is the best way to get in touch with him. He's like, I don't use Instagram. I'm like, well, sucks to be you. I don't know what to tell you. So, but I get it. There are people like that for whatever reason, may only use one specific platform, and meet them where they're at. Right. It's kind of my philosophy with things.
I struggle with the multi-platform thing myself. You know, I think we like the buttons where they are on some platforms. You know what I mean? Like, it's intuitive for you. So I see that definitely. I don't like Instagram messages as much, because every time someone likes your stories, it basically becomes a message. So it buries things very quickly. So I don't even like email as much. I'm a good old fashioned text message type of guy. Text me. Not that I want everyone out there giving my phone. Don't give anyone my phone number. All right. But that's like always the easiest. But I do like email, and I like having my own website. You know, you kind of have all of that too. You've got your podcast, you've got your website, YouTube channels. How do you manage all of it, like in a day or a week? You know, do you find it difficult to jump from platform to platform?
It's like herding cats, man. It really is. Because everything is different. Since SHOT, for those that may not be aware, Meta was at SHOT. So, that being Facebook and Instagram, primarily Facebook. And, since then, I was able to, get the Facebook page unrestricted and freed
Nice.
up and all of that, right? And so because of that, I'm seeing a little more growth, a little more traction, a little more stuff. So I kind of leaned into kind of bobbing and weaving, changing up the way
Okay.
that I do things, right, on Facebook. So that's kind of throw the kink into things a little bit, but traditionally it all revolves around the videos on YouTube, right? YouTube is kind of because it being the second largest search engine and the largest video platform on earth. Um, that's where the eyeballs are at, right? That's where the ears
Yeah.
are at, whatever. And so I'm there. This is kind of the way I put it. I'm there. That's kind of the home base. That's kind of that. And then from there, everything kind of disseminates from there. So the Facebook post, the shorts, the clips, that goes to Facebook, that goes to X, that goes to Instagram, the podcast goes out from there being recorded, live on YouTube and then going out into the audio world. Firearms Radio Network, iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, who knows where else. I recently realized when I was on Amazon Music, believe it or not,
Oh yeah.
getting the playlist set up for SHOT Show for the trip out to SHOT. That's a long drive. Uh, Realized that the podcast it was even on Amazon Music, and I had no idea. So apparently they siphoned it over there, I guess, without my
So
even
even
knowing, which is nice.
you just saying that, I have more anxiety now as I'm like, oh yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Rumble, and all that. And you didn't mention Rumble, and that's interesting because I see a lot of content creators in the 2A space are like kind of jumping ship, and a lot of them don't get lightning to strike over there the way that they may on YouTube. And I see it in my own personal. My Instagram is pretty big here for OK Shooter. We get a really good audience there, but the content will post it on YouTube or even Facebook, and it doesn't perform as well. So we primarily stay with Instagram. Our email list is huge to us. So I've curated a really good email list over the years. So that, and then, especially Instagram there. So, but, so herding cats. So is it like, cute cuddly cats, or like they all catnipped out, claws out when you're trying to juggle it and
No,
manage it?
it falls into line pretty easily, right? Because everything kind of ties together as far as the content goes. So, I think the most you talked about the email list. Yes, forgot about that. But obviously, if you have a website, build an email list. Those things
Yes.
are invaluable. Um, but do have an email list that is serviced, so to speak, through Substack. So I've got an online
Okay.
platform, and then Substack also kind of works as an email newsletter when you post or publish over there. So I moved to that as opposed to the newsletter and the blog post on my website, right? Two separate things.
Yeah.
Substack kind of consolidated. So I'm like, okay, until they kick me off, get mad because
Understand.
there's gun stuff, who knows? I'm gonna play over there and see what happens. Um, but that's probably the most, the articles, for there on Substack, and then gearreport.com, gear-report.com. Um, those two are probably the most tedious and involved, right? Because it's pretty easy to clip a video. It's pretty easy to do that. But to take that video, the experience you have with whatever's in that video, translate that out into the written word, it's a lot different than just showing things on a screen. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? There's a reason they say that.
I think, talking about all the tools we have now, I mean, I look back to, early days of like even Facebook, and I'm a big Photoshop guy, how we used to edit our content and like, post it here, upload our videos. Now we have things like Hootsuite and things like that, where we can kind of syndicate, our content out. So as you've been in this over the years, doing it the hard way to now, are you like, man, I'm so glad life is easier? Or are there still some maybe the old school ways that we did things that you miss?
That's a good question. Is it is definitely easier from a technical standpoint, I think, from a technology and a technical standpoint, definitely easier. I think what is more difficult is the drive, the need, the urge, however you want to put it, I guess, to pursue perfection, for things to be polished, for things to be just right. A good example is the background I've got now. This is not, and you mentioned some issues going on. This is not, and I've got the first podcast of 2026. I'm recording tomorrow. I got to do something tomorrow about this. I was planning on doing it yesterday, and a series of very unfortunate events kept me from doing that. So, yeah, I got to get some things with this background kind of fixed up. So, it's just little things like that. And is it terrible? Is it horrible? No, it's not. But it annoys me at the same time. I don't think it is the quality I'm capable of. I don't think it is the quality that viewers and listeners are necessarily deserving of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, me and Tim have been doing this, I mean, about a year now, not super regularly, with life and regular jobs. So we're still kind of finding our way. But we're having fun doing it. The conversations that we've had with people that have been on the show today have been absolutely a blast. And we're always kind of looking and asking for help. And, people have guided us. You've given me some advice and, a few other people have out there. So I kept I held myself back, like trying to make everything perfect, where it's just like, get on there, film it, do it, and then make changes as you go. And it's firearms training and, anything you do, you can't fix everything all at once. So
Hmm.
every episode, every couple weeks, pick something that you like to do better, you know. And I think with me with technology, I, I l- I like some of the apps that we're using now, like CapCut, and even now the new edits to do like reels. The only thing I don't like about them is everyone's using the same templates. So after
Yeah.
like a month, everyone's kind of like everyone. You can tell everyone's using like this template of the week, and it helps them get a little bit of viral boost or whatever. So I do miss just kind of when everyone edited things out and like, whatever it was, Adobe, Premiere, maybe iMovie, because then everyone, had to kind of pick their transitions and we didn't have CapCut that could take, some pretty mediocre footage sometimes and make something that's really good.
Right.
So I kind of miss that. And I used to edit videos the hard way. So now that everyone's doing it easy, I'm like, man, I spent so much time learning, Final Cut back in the day, and now we don't even use it. So, uh, that's some of the stuff now that I look back on and I'm like, man, we just had it so hard. And, our computers sucked, 10 years ago. So imagine doing like 4K video on a
Oh,
computer.
that was not happening with me for sure. Like this
Yeah.
it wasn't even a possibility on what I was running 10 years ago.
Oh man. Yeah, I know.
Did good to do 1080, quite honestly. 10 years ago.
Yeah. Now we upload in what we do. You kind of, we're kind of talking about, some of the things, and I want to talk about the technical side of like social media and YouTube, and I'll let you get
Yeah.
into like kind of the firearm side of it. But with Meta being there at SHOT Show, and I wasn't at SHOT Show, if you guys haven't heard, there's a whole
Un- Unfortunately.
series of podcasts on that. But I would have told them to like let's pick a picture format and a video format and stick with it for more than 3 months,
Yeah.
because I'm tired of us going vertical to portrait to 16:9 to, I think we did 4/5 for like half a year, and now we're at 3:4 aspect ratio. So, I don't
It's
like that where every month it's like you curate your feeds or your videos so they have the right thumbnails. And then 2 weeks later, the algorithm changes and it's like, well,
trash.
all your old videos need to be updated. So do you ever get frustrated with that side of it? Like trying to, the technical side of it?
So I do, but I learned something with that. YouTube is sort of the same way. For a long time on YouTube, it was, and it's true to an extent for branding, right? And for image, and especially if you're going to shows, you're reaching out, you're talking with companies, you're that sort of thing. The more polished and professional everything looks, the more everything kind of comes together. The better off. Hang on one second. That was my alarm. Um, the more the more, I guess, the more impressive that looks. And so people have talked about that with YouTube for years. Hey, your banner, your cover artwork, your thumbnail design, have a template and, keep it, kind of uniform and put some branding in the thumbnail and just some different things like that. And what I learned through that was it outside of the image with maybe a company or something, it doesn't matter. The vast majority of people, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, Rumble, honestly, wherever, the vast majority of viewers, um, they're going to watch your videos as they pop up on their feed. They're not going to go to your main homepage and scroll through and go, oh, well, look, their aspect ratio is different here 6 months ago, and these look weird. They're not gonna even do that. So, it's a feed thing, and for the most part, except for the searchability, and that's also where YouTube shines too, is the search and discovery. portion, being that second
Yeah.
largest search engine. Um, that is, other platforms really don't benefit from that. And so, yeah, if they change every 6 months for a little while, it could be a pain for a viewer, as far as the difference that they see. But all that's going to wash out pretty quickly, and they're never going to see it. The
I
way that one time it was explained to me is, look at YouTube as a lake. YouTube is a big, huge lake. Um, Instagram, Facebook, a lot of these other things are streams, literal. They're rivers, right? Constantly moving. What you see now, 1 second later, it's gone. There's something else. It's gone. There's something else. It's gone. There's a constant flow. Whereas like on YouTube, you can throw the bass boat in the water, right? You can go to your little
yeah.
cove over here. You can hook some fish there, and whatever type of fish you're fishing for, right?
Yeah, exactly. Even when you use Google as a search, if you're like, hey, I need to know how to take a spark plug out of a four-wheeler, it'll give you a 30-second snippet of a YouTube video and the results.
Mm-hmm.
I can't search for anything on Instagram. If I saw a reel, about, a SIG P320 exploding, you go to a little search bar on Instagram and you'll never find that reel that you probably watched 10 times. You know what I mean? So I definitely get that. Like YouTube is definitely an interconnected system. And it's refreshing to hear someone say, like, don't fret the technical details as much, just make the content. And I agree, the algorithm shows you more content than you actually look for. The algorithm serves it to us. So that's a valid point. The bass boat analogy is that too. Videos that are, I like seeing videos that are maybe like 5 years old still that just keep getting views too. Like people will go back and watch that type of content. That doesn't happen on Instagram or Facebook the way it does there. No one is really ever seeing a video that was, or an Instagram story or carousel or post that you
Yeah.
did 2 or 3 years ago. It happens occasionally, but not every day.
Well, and it's a lot of times when it happens, it's one of a couple things. It's the first is a little disturbing because you've got a creeper, you've got a stalker, you've got potentially somebody of that nature that you like. This could be nefarious, right? Are they looking to get information on you to try to do something weird? I mean, who knows? And then the second would be some type of company or something that you've reached out to, and they're scrolling through and checking out past history and all your stuff. So, it could be one of those two things, but very seldom is it, the like I said, the vast majority of the follower, viewer. I guess it depends
Yeah.
on what platform we're on as to what we call it. But yeah.
Talk, that one, I think it was about a year and a half ago. I had a personal injury lawyer go through a bunch of old posts and start liking them. And I was
Hmm.
like, am I about to get sued? Like, I
Right.
feel like
Yeah.
I'm, like, why
Yeah.
would he just like 25 posts in a row? Like,
Yeah.
then you're
Or
like, did I?
it's Ahmed something I can't even pronounce, and you're like, oh, am I fixing to get hacked or spoofed, or like what's going on here?
Or the custom patch makers, that
Oh
are
my
all in
God.
the.
Yeah.
Everyone has the same reaction to that. If you're like Instagram or even social media patch makers that slide into your DMs, uh, it's that your face, your whole body language sums that up in
Right.
one sentence.
It's
So,
a daily thing. It's people don't realize.
and they're relentless, man. They'll delete a
Yeah.
page, make a new one. It's a phenomena that if you're not in the outdoor industry, whether firearms, archery, I'm sure hunting, they have those same people, but Jimmy Patches, Patches 314, whatever it may be, those guys are, hello, buddy. Hello, buddy. Would you like PVC patches? And you're like, no, I'm good. I have a patch guy. Like me and my patch guy, we get along really well.
Yeah, yeah, you can't beat his price, and yeah, so just kick rocks, please.
I'll pay a little bit more just so if I call them and I'm like, hey, I got this weird idea, let me run it by you. Like, would you,
Right.
would you have a problem making this? No, we'll go with it. So,
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
so, technology, all that aside, the passion for making content, where did that come from for you? Like was it just I wanted to do this? Did you see money signs at the end of the tunnel?
I've created content since the internet was a thing.
That's
So, .com, boom, websites, um, things of that nature, right?
yeah.
Which is content creation, right?
So what content
um,
started? Like, was it guns or did you try something different to start?
no, I mean I had so with the IT business, I did have a channel for that, and I did have some, computer networking tutorial little
Okay.
walkthrough things, and this was in good Lord, 2005 to maybe 2008 of YouTube. So like when YouTube
Okay.
was first a thing, and even before that on the company website. Um, but it it all started. The gun thing started from a video I actually uploaded to that channel. That then got moved over to a new channel, and
Uh,
it was a very common thing that early on happened a lot, which was, hey, I need to fix this issue. How do I do that? And over the phone? Ain't happening. So instead of me trying to walk you through something, let me just like turn the camera on and show you, right?
right.
And so that's kind of how it started. Um, and then it progressed from there into just having fun. I mean, I've always had a pretty big collection, so I've got plenty of things to play with. And so it's like, hey, this is pretty cool. Let's play with this, but we're going to do it on a camera so other people can, I mean, maybe they've never seen it before, right? Um, quite a bit of the things that I have on the channel, um, folks they haven't seen before, you know.
There's channels, and I know as gun reviewers, and even me, you got to always kind of plug some of the latest and greatest stuff. SHOT Show just happened. So, I mean, honestly, I'm at the point if I see one more Glock Gen 6 video, I'll never buy one. Like I'm at that point.
Right, right.
But I do like seeing channels that do dig deep into their collections. Like I just posted a video for a Smith & Wesson Model 10-1, and I was like, it's a cool old
Oh,
gun.
nice.
Police Academy. I bought it because I'm a big fan of the movie Police
Love
Academy.
Model 10s, man. Love Model 10s. Round butt or square butt?
This one's a square butt.
Okay. Yeah, that's my favorite.
It's a sweet shooting gun. They're cool.
Been around
You know,
forever.
ever. Yeah.
Forever.
So many different variants of,
Well,
I
it
think
started
Smith
life
did that.
as a hand ejector, and then it went through what four models or something, the hand ejector, and then it was the Victory, and it was the MMP, and then it was several things before it came to Model 10. And so but it's the exact same handgun.
Yeah, and it's ironic Smith is making them again, so it's, the gun industry makes laps sometimes, whether it's a 5-year lap or a 75-year lap,
Yeah.
it still comes around turn 3 and 4 every now and again.
Yep. What is old becomes new again. Well, but a lot of that, whether that's classic cars or, really anything. I mean, look at the retro video gaming world, right? Um, Things come around. And it's because you've got new people, new audience and stuff
Yeah, oh
coming up,
yeah.
right? And so
I mean,
they value the aesthetics of the old stuff. They value the simplicity or maybe the, mechanical design. It depends on what the product we're talking about is, of course, but newer generations are finding out, hey, these were really cool, right? You still go out probably and hunt and shoot with a bow occasionally, don't you?
yeah, I prefer bow hunting, I think, to gun hunting,
Well, there you go.
because I work in the gun industry. So, when I get off work, it's like I still love guns, but you got to find
Yeah,
ways to mix it up, or else,
yeah, yeah.
you find everything you
Like,
do with guns and becomes work. So
like how old is the technology and the thought and the whatever for a bow? All right. Like
it's
again,
pretty
like,
old.
but it's cool at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, so why not?
The process of it, and everything you get into it. And I like seeing, the generations now, I'm in my mid 40s, so I'm getting up there in age, but even my son is 18 and he's like, Unfortunately for him, the mill surplus market isn't what it was when I was his age. So he's just got to deal with it. Where I'm that old FUD, I guess, where I'm like, we could get Nagants for $79.99 from AIM Surplus.
True, but I had a conversation about this the other day, and my thoughts on milsurp is if you're looking at anything milsurp, buy it now, and don't hesitate. The reason is, yes, okay, it's higher than 5 years ago, it's higher than last year, it's higher than 20 years ago. The reason is they only made a finite amount. That's why.
Right.
So that's just the way that things go, right? You're not going to get around that. And if you don't buy it now, 5 years from now, when you see it again, or you have a hankering for it again, it's going to be even more expensive. So it's gonna appreciate. So our odds are it's going to appreciate. So just go ahead and get it. I mean, don't skip rent or food off the table or whatever. But if you've got the money saved up, if you can do it, I don't see nothing wrong with paying some of the fair prices. I do see some ridiculous prices out there. But to your point of, the younger generations, yes, I agree. If they want to play in the older milsurp game, yes, it's going to cost them a little more to do that, right? However, they can play in the current milsurp game, which is what we played in when we got the stuff cheap. So look at police trade-ins, especially a lot of the international European police trade-in stuff that's going on right now, right? Those are reasonably priced. Those are some really good deals on some stuff that, guess what? 5 years, 10 years from now, you're not going to see anymore.
I think it was Navy Arms last year at SHOT Show had like Smith & Wesson 38s and a few different versions of them that were like Brazilian export and then re-import, service arms. And they were really cheap. And I even say it to people, if we don't start buying this stuff, it's going to end up in, I hate to say it, buyback programs. I see a lot of old guys taking their collections to gun buybacks, and let's not let that happen. Like, I'd rather see these guns go into younger collectors' hands.
Terrible. Yeah. Well, thankfully, I think it depends on where you live with a lot of that. Thankfully around here, most widows, whatever, if they, their deceased husband had a big, huge collection, most of them reach out to gun shops that consign and things like that. So everything gets recirculated, which is great. But I can certainly see if, you lived in Chicago, LA, you picked the liberal, the liberal left-leaning city, that, they would just call the police department and go, the husband died, here's his gun collection and the horrible things. I don't want them. And who knows, could be $1 million gun collection for all we know, that they go destroy.
I've heard of it happening with a few people where even if it, in my area, and it was just overwhelming, because the spouse and the kids were like, we didn't really realize my dad had like 200 guns. So we're not even sure, and I'll say there's not very many good resources on the internet. So that may be something that, everyone kind of collaborates on some point, and we put together a good article or, a push like, hey, what to do with, dad's collection so we don't throw away history. You know what I mean? So, kids out there, if you're listening to this, if your truck needs tires, buy the tires, but save a little bit of money. And if a good deal pops up, try to make it happen. Gun shops have layaway. Put that Mauser on layaway for a couple weeks.
Even the online shops have layaway.
Trade in Glocks are a deal. I don't even want to buy a Gen 6 Glock because I can get a Gen 3 police trade in for like $399, and I'm like, that's
Gen 3
cool
to me.
gun.
Gen 3 is the best gen anyway, but that's me.
I like my Gen 2s.
So here's the deal. If you want finger grooves, I agree with you in this context. If you want finger grooves, Gen 3. If you don't, Gen 2.
3. Yeah. I'm there with you.
That's where everything I've got is well, I've got a Gen 1, but everything I play around with for the most part is Gen 2 and Gen 3. Yeah.
I bought a Gen 5 recently because the gun shops were like trying to get rid of them, I guess, right before the Gen 6s came out. So I was like, you know what? It's not a bad deal. I'll buy it. But I still like the Gen 3. I think of all of them. Gen 2, like you said, but a Gen 2 19 just to me was like a classy. It was a cool gun in that era, that time frame. So going, from back then till now, how have you adapted to the landscape of media marketing in the social media space that we were in? Because back in like 2010 when I was kind of working for gun shops, we could sell guns on Facebook, even in the marketplace, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then
Well,
now,
well, no, you can't in the marketplace. You can still advertise, but
yeah, you
yeah,
gotta jump.
if you're a
So
brick and mortar, yeah, you got to be a brick and
yeah,
mortar. That's the caveat to Facebook nowadays.
yeah.
So
And I won't say it hasn't affected you, but how is it kind of have you, as you've progressed through all of the changes to where we are now from where we started, how have you kept your sanity for one?
right.
I said earlier, like, let's just worry about keeping up with technology, but you made an interesting point in the green room
So,
where we're like, you got to know your gun laws. So how have you navigated it with the success that you've done it?
well, I got lucky is what I did. I don't make any
So it was
bones
all
about
luck,
it.
just all
Yeah, it
luck.
was. I got lucky. I put in the work, but that's the thing with I say lucky. It's like I did some things that created opportunity, and that's just my story across the board. That's why I go to shows. That's why I talk to people. That's why I meet people. It's like you never know when opportunity is gonna present itself, but you got to be there. If you're not there, it does you no good. And so, um, I'd actually, and I don't remember what year it was, if it was 17 or 18, but I had decided that I needed to get a little more serious. I'd sold the IT business that I had, was looking for something to do. And I said, hey, if I'm going to do this, I am not the type. You heard the old saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, and I do not agree with that. That can land you in prison, for example.
Yeah,
So, I
there's
don't agree
definitely
with it. I don't
there's a
agree with it.
context bubble that works in,
Right,
like,
right.
maybe
Yeah,
like taking the last bite of or the last piece of cake from the cake box in the kitchen.
right. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Go for
yeah.
that. Maybe taking the last cup of coffee out of the pot.
It, it's
Yeah.
it's definitely relevant to the consequences of said action, right? I think
Yeah, yeah.
is the thing. So,
Uh
but yeah, I've never subscribed to that really. So, it's like, okay, I need to kind of learn about these platforms a little more. And at the time, it was more how to get more views, how to, that sort of thing, right? It was less on the policy side. And so what happened was I got to noticing on Facebook that all of the YouTube groups on Facebook were sub for sub, like for like, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, which does absolutely nothing. And I'm like, I want a group where creators of all shapes and sizes and genres can come in and we can discuss, oh, wow, okay, that's a cool thumbnail you got, this, that, and the other. But like nobody is trying to sub for sub or anything like that. It's legit feedback and that sort of thing. So I started that group and it got, several hundred people. It didn't get huge. And one day I had this guy, and I don't even remember the question he had, but he had a YouTube question that I couldn't answer. Like I did not know the answer to it, and nobody else did either. Like it was like way over everybody's head. It was some kind of a technical type question, and I couldn't find the answer. And I looked around, and I got a DM on Facebook shortly after that question was posted in the group, and it said, "Hey, I'm the director of search and discovery for YouTube, and I'm in your group, but I don't want to post that and publicly and blah blah blah, trying to answer this guy's question." He's like, can you relay this, information to him, basically? And I'm like, this guy's full of crap. Like, what are you talking about? So went, of course, did a little bit of stalking and through LinkedIn profiles and other things. I'm like, okay, this guy's not kidding. This guy is legit high up the chain at YouTube. Cool. Copy paste, into the thing, help that particular individual out. And then that started a relationship. It's all about their relationship, right? And that kind of started a relationship. And I know that guy to this day. We DM back and forth. Never met the dude. but we've talked on the
Nice.
phone, text, DM'd back and forth all the time, that sort of thing. And that sort of led from, okay, I've got this one connection. So, okay, wow, I'm having issues with policy, right? Uh,
Yeah.
the monetization's wonky. I'm getting, strikes on a video, warnings, whatever, right? And it went through running stuff by him. And through that, I've just I met more and more and more people through YouTube to be able to learn from them what they expect as far as the platform. The big thing that YouTube, in any meeting I've to this day that I am in, they use a phrase called spirit of the policy. And so what happens is creators will look at the policy from a gun owner's, you know, from a lifelong gun owner, highly educated gun owner, whatever
Right.
perspective, rather than YouTube. Like, what is YouTube trying to say? Like, not what does this mean to me as a creator? What is YouTube trying to say? What we got to look at. What are they trying to accomplish with this? And then, so once you kind of understand that, and then that's a bit nuanced, I won't lie, but once you kind of understand that, you start getting a grasp for policy. So, through that, I've been able to actually help write some policy changes for the better,
Nice.
specifically firearm monetization policy, right? And then currently working on what next week there is a training that I was able to set up by YouTube on specifically firearm content creator related policy. So,
Nice.
um, but yeah, I go back to what I guess you said we were talking about in the green room before is, it would be nice the days of getting kicked in the nut videos and cat videos of YouTube to just be able to film with your phone, hit upload, and it's on YouTube, right? But unfortunately, regardless of the genre you're in, there's so many different policies that affect so many things. It's not just firearm stuff that you need to understand those things. And it's like trying to drive down the road without knowing the speed limits. How annoying is that, by the way, when you're like away somewhere and you don't know what the speed limit is? And nowadays with GPS, that's kind of a lot of that shows
It's
up, right? But there
it
are
saved me.
occasions when you don't know. You're out in the middle of nowhere, you're on a long trip, and you're like, I don't know if it's 70 or 50 here. I have no clue. And so I don't like operating in that type of environment, and that includes online and with platforms. Like, I want to know.
I yeah, I agree with that sentiment 100%. And as a small business owner, and a lot of guys that kind of stumble into this on accident, maybe, not knowing the legal ramifications, the financial ramifications, the policy ramifications, even for me, you pay your first year of self-employment taxes and you're like, there's no one to teach you that. You can go read all the IRS articles you want,
Right?
and none of them are clear. You're like, you can't walk into an IRS building and be like, I'm a small business owner. How do I not go to jail? How do I not get, sued?
Mm-hmm.
Especially with every year, hey, the reporting threshold for this year is this much. It changed again last year. This year it changes again. So I see that with YouTube, and I always tell, guys that are doing this, and I'm not a big monetization guy on YouTube because we just don't do as much there. But I say, like, you still got to remember, it's their house, it's their rules. Their YouTube's business isn't to host your videos anymore. Their business is to sell information about users,
Right.
behavior online, and advertisements.
And
Your
and
content is the filler of that.
right. And regardless of the monetization of you being monetized on YouTube, just think about the cost of the infrastructure and the complexity of it and everything else. Think about what you have access to for free as a creator to put, and I say for free because really the only thing you're having to pay is attention to the policy, to follow the policy, right? As long as you do that, you're on platform. And like, you mentioned Rumble, or Rumble will never catch up to where YouTube's at. Rumble will never be there. They don't have the money. They don't have access to the infrastructure. Can they get close? Can Rumble get better? Can Rumble improve? Yes, I think they can.
Yeah.
Can they get to where even YouTube is 5 years ago or was 5 years ago? I don't think so. I was saying that when Rumble first came out, I'm like, they will never get even close to it.
YouTube isn't YouTube. It's Alphabet. It's Google. It's
Right.
it's an integrated platform, just like Meta is now. You have Facebook, Instagram.
It feeds on itself, Yeah.
If you have 5 Meta apps on your phone, which I think most people do at this point, they know everything you do on your phone and how to curate everything to you. Rumble is just a standalone. I mean, Vimeo's been around for years. We used to use Vimeo because you could do more high def stuff there, and you could more artistic freedom there, but there was no monetization. And then now you can't even using Vimeo inside of certain, website builders isn't possible because it's not supported, where YouTube source code is, click and play for everything.
Yeah, the gold standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I agree with you everywhere there. And I, as you say, people that navigate in this space, yeah, you have to know and, understand that YouTube's stance on firearms isn't to help you promote firearms. It's to help them sell advertising. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's to make money. I mean, they're there, even though they lose a lot of money too. I mean, at the end of the day, they are a business.
I feel like they could lose.
Well, yeah, they can lose a lot. But again, it goes back to that, the spirit of the policy, and when you really reduce it down, pretty much anything we're talking about as far as policy, there's nuance and there's specifics, sure, but at the end of the day, it's liability. It's one word. You can sum it all up in policy, all of it in one word, which is liability. Liability for criminal lawsuits, for for apocalypses, like anything that's going to cost, get into their pocketbook, like they're going to be concerned about.
Criminal side of things is the lowest hurdle you got to clear, and a lot of people, even in self-defense shootings, we always find that the criminal side of things, you could use your gun lawfully, not be charged criminally, but that civil lawsuit, that liability of it is way trickier. And I've seen companies and we've seen parts of our industry just be battered by it,
Well,
so
so a hypothetical, as much as folks like to complain about YouTube and a lot of different aspects of YouTube, hypothetical. Let's say that there is a policy. It's not as strict as it probably should be for liability purposes. Something happens, they have a class action lawsuit, and it actually puts YouTube in jeopardy of going under. And let's say YouTube does disappear. Let's say YouTube disappeared overnight.
Whoa.
The ramifications of that would be it would be a very interesting thing, but it would be catastrophic in many multiple ways. There would be businesses that would go out of business almost immediately. There would be so much chaos that was created by that, right?
Appliance repairmen would be back. Yeah. They'd be so backed up with work for 20 years if they, that we just deleted it all.
I think they probably would, but then here's the thing, like I don't think anybody wants to be an appliance repairman anymore, unfortunately.
I know, but right? I mean, I'm guilty of it. You go to YouTube, you watch just enough of the video to change the belt on your dryer. You're not trying to, back in the day, we would educate ourselves on how to fix these things, but now it's like, just show me where the oil screen filter is. That's all I care about. And then I'll make it up as I go. But if we lost it all, and even, you've got a well-rounded approach to this with the podcast. You sell merch, you've collaborated with clothing companies to monetize yourselves in different ways. And even YouTubers that come to me because I'm no expert, I just say to them, like, you have to have more than one revenue stream. If you're relying 100% on a single revenue stream like YouTube or even Meta, who, they're maybe not 100% anti-gun, but they definitely don't make the environment, as friendly as possible. You should find other ways, whether it is teaching classes, laser stippling, selling t-shirts, it's
Well, and
there.
it doesn't
So
even have to be. It doesn't even have to be firearm, outdoor related. And I've got several revenue streams. I'm not gonna talk about them here, but I've got several revenue streams that have zero to do with guns and bullets
yeah,
and scopes and things. You know, and they make really good money. Now they are in the content vein, and since I'm doing content already, it makes those extra avenues very easy to add to the portfolio.
right.
Um, yeah, and also add to the bank account. So like, why
That's
not?
crypto's out. We're seeing crypto's kind of taking its plunge. So don't buy Bitcoin, kids. Buy 9mm. Buy 40 Smith and Wesson. You can even buy that too. It's probably a better deal in today's market. So
Then crypto, yeah, probably.
I would assume I'd have more fun with it. I still don't. I've never seen a vending machine that takes Bitcoin where I live, so it's kind of useless to me. Um, so you kind of you went through YouTube. We've kind of talked about some of the the serious stuff, and I appreciate that. And I think we'll make sure we drop some links into this. I'm not sure if your class you're doing or your seminar is a one-off, or if you're going to kind of do it recurring and maybe
Yeah,
get
that
more
was
people in there.
Yeah, that was an invite, or sign up by a certain date, which was back in December for this one. So, but if it works out well, we'll definitely do more.
All right,
YouTube
nice.
has said as much, so just
Yeah.
kind of be looking out. And more importantly, like folks need to keep in touch. Like I probably help with YouTube issues, talk with creators about YouTube issues. Um, a couple of hours a day on average. I probably
That's
spend that
that's
much time doing that. So,
That's
uh,
impressive considering,
I don't
where
get
you're sticking
paid.
all your hands into things.
Considering I don't get paid for it, yeah, super impressive.
Well, that's
But
just, so,
I
you
can't
know,
bring myself to. How do you do that? How do you have a
it's
channel with 5,000 subscribers that's having issues with YouTube policy and they reach out and like, how do you even begin to set a price to charge that creator? Like, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
that speaks volumes of your character in it is, and I like seeing creators succeed of all sizes. Working in the industry, we can't always give free product out to every creator, but we try when we can. Um, but I like seeing people succeed. So to hear you say that is super refreshing. It makes me like you even more than I already do. Um, so keep that mentality. I hope people, I hope the seminar helps a lot of people, and I hope you continue to just drop those little tidbits of knowledge on them. Uh, so to kind of flip it, and we'll just kind of goof off for a few minutes. I always kind of like
Do it.
to challenge my guest. You get a time machine, all right? You
Uh,
get to use it
wow.
3 times. You
Well,
can't change history too much, but if you could go see 3 events, and they can be gun related, they cannot be gun
uh,
related. A recurring one that I would do, I would say I would go to 1985 and I would buy as many Fleming Sears as I could. I would buy every Fleming Sear, or I'd go and see
so
the first time people.
you're not just an observer, you get to participate, is what you're saying
Yeah, a
to
little
this.
bit, so if you wanted to go like snuff Hitler as a baby, we're not going to say no. It's your 3 trips in the time machine.
Right,
Um, like me, I'd
right,
like to go visit at least one experience where like people ate food for the first time and then had to convince people that it was okay. Like, hey, we ate red berries. Everyone brought back the red berries. 3 people died, and then they forget which berries killed the people, and they
right.
got to be like,
Yeah.
oh, we do this. So 3 trips. Where are you going? What are you checking out? Like I said, it doesn't have to be gun related. It could be. So, what would you do in your
Man.
time machine trips?
So number one is probably going to be the Alamo.
Okay.
Um, I would love to be not a part of that, obviously. But I would love to be on a hill somewhere. Uh,
Watching from a distance,
I would
maybe.
love to actually be able to maybe hovering in some kind of a balloon overhead, being able to watch it, but to actually watch all of that unfold. Um, I think that could be really, really, really cool. There was a lot of cool stuff, a lot of history there, a lot of things that went on there that folks don't understand. The overwhelming odds, I don't think people can grasp it. And I think if I was there, as as well as I think I have a grasp on it. If I was there, I think it would blow me
Yeah.
away. I think it'd be like,
So
holy crap.
you've read history books, you've watched,
Yeah.
documentaries, and you may get there and you may find some facet of all that history was wrong.
Yeah.
I,
Right.
I think it was the shot heard around the world. There's a really good history account on that. And that shot, they actually think that it was because they weren't allowed to take their guns into the tavern. So the shot heard around the world, allegedly, historians think it was just someone that leaned their gun up against the tavern wall outside and the gun fell and went off. And then the Brits heard that and were like, "Oh, it's a gunfight." And so maybe you might have something like that at the Alamo where you're like, "Oh, wow, like, man, they got that wrong, but it worked out for us," or, it didn't work out. So, all right, that's a fair trip. I like that one. I think that's a cool part of history that people should do. So you got 2 trips left. Where are you going?
I think, I'm not really sure what year, but we'll just speak in general terms here. When the Bill of Rights was being debated before it went on papers, uh, kind of everybody standing around. Oh, well, the First Amendment needs to say X, Y, and Z, and the Second Amendment it needs to say X, Y, and Z. These be worded this way. No, we need to take this word out. Well, why do we need to take? I mean, we've got some historical accounts of that, but to be able to hear it straight from the horse's mouth and see the passion behind the person, because we lose that with writing, right? To be able to see the passion behind the person, like, oh, this person was really adamant about that amendment needed to be this way for this reason. Like, he had everything behind it with his speech or his debate or his reasoning, right?
I feel like that was a lot more fiery conversations than history. You see the paintings, where they're standing in,
It
Independence
was
Hall
not
and
diplomatic. I doubt very
no,
seriously it
no,
was
there was
diplomatic.
beer steins probably being thrown and, things like that.
Right.
So I agree.
Right.
And history has a way over the years to kind of, each time the story gets told, maybe a detail gets lost every time. So I agree that would be, and part of America, I think that's an important one, but I feel like we would be like, wow, like those were just regular dudes who just, wanted to get this done. And then there's like, I know there's that SNL skit where they talk about the Second Amendment and they're like guns. I'm sure there was some of that kind of banter or humor that kind of went on in there, even with that, where they're just trying to get through it. So that's a good one. I like that. You got 2 solid picks so far. Last trip, you get to pull the handle one last time, and then you got to go home. So where are we stopping?
So NRA show coming up in April. Let's go with what was that, the 77 Revolt? That would have been really cool to have been on the floor. I've had, firsthand accounts I've heard and whatnot on that, but especially looking forward, looking at currently the NRA and a lot of the reformers that have gotten in there and
Yeah.
some of the positive moves that have been made as of late. I keep going back to that revolt, and I say 77. I think I'm right on that. I could be wrong, but um, the Fudge were right during that revolt. That revolt was because they wanted to split off with the political pandering, um, lobbying, legislative arm, and the Fudge were like, no, 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 we need to stay with ranges and competition and education and da 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 da, all this, right? We don't need to get into that. And basically, they were right, because what happened is that set forth the ability for the Wayne LaPierres and cronies and whatnot to pander to sleazy politicians, make a bunch of money, put money in their pocket, and basically sell out the Second Amendment rather than protect it. And I think if all this time we would have just had the NRA doing its thing as far as social change, awareness, destigmatizing gun ownership, firearm safety, range programs, competition, and not be um, having to try to operate in the shadows of, well, what's the political arm doing, right? I think we would have a better NRA right now. So it would be really really interesting to see the kind of like the Constitution fight in battle. It would be really interesting to see that battle on the floor as well.
Even Buzz Aldrin's or Buzz's speech, Buzz Mills from Gunsight. Buzz Aldrin. I've been watching too much History Channel, but Buzz Mills from Gunsight. His speech that he gave. When it's like, hey, NRA, we got to get our act together, or else it's going to change. So that's another interesting one. And someone made an Instagram post. There's a series of stories, and it was talking about IPSC and IDPA, how the last couple of years that's kind of had their own political infighting. And it's like, instead of like doing this, like, why aren't we putting our energy into building new ranges, opening new clubs? We get more shooters if they have places to shoot. And I think that's kind of, that echoes the sentiment that you're saying, where, instead of like focusing on growing the sport, they were like infighting about bylaws and things like that versus,
Yep.
hey, there's only 2 matches in Georgia. Let's try and get 5 more matches. So, I think we as gun owners work best when we're at the range, helping each other out in that regard versus arguing about, things on the internet or, maybe in DC where it's still important issues. But I think the more we have, the more, you say stigmatizing gun ownership, more high schools had shooting teams and we got kids into the shooting sports younger. I think our whole community would thrive even more. So very solid choices as you ran through history.
That was
I
on the
respect
fly.
that.
It was on the fly, unfortunately. So, more time to think. Who knows where we would go? But
that's how it would go. If you found an unattended time machine, it's like, we got to go use this real quick because someone's like we're right back there. We're not asking permission. We're gonna go, and then we're gonna try and get it back where we found it. So I'm with you there.
It's fun to go down the road that you propose, which you go back in time and buy a lottery ticket, or go back in time and place a future bet, or do some like, that's all fun. But I'm like, let's actually put a little bit of thought behind some events that would just be cool to witness.
I'm always, like I said, I'd say I watched a documentary years ago, and the beer one was it. These Egyptians saw a pot of rice that got wet, and they're like, let's drink this. And they're like, oh, wow, it makes us feel weird. And then how many times they had to replicate that without someone getting sick or, so I think that's where I always pick a food one. I'm like, I just want to see how they, or it's like, if we were at NRA and we had a jar of moldy rice water or grain water, it's like, who could we get to drink this? Like, as we look around and we're like, well, could we get him? And then, we'd all look at like Kenneth at, Kenneth IV or someone. We're like, hey, Ken, come here, try this.
Right.
So that's always when I look at,
Well, so talking about the food ones, a couple of the Jesus miracles, water into wine, or the fishes and loaves, would have been some cool maybe stuff to witness too. Like, how did that actually go down?
There's so many instances like that where you go check it out. So I always kind of pick one that's kind of selfish. I'd like to just have some machine guns, just some more portable machine guns
too. And I didn't think about this till just now. A lot of things have been lost to time. Look at Greek fire, for example. There's a lot of things. There's inventions. There's what was it called? Starlight or something. There was a plastic thing that was invented that, like, you could put a blowtorch to it, like, and it wouldn't even get hot. And the guy that passed away on that, like, the secret died with him, so being able to go back and maybe extract some of those secrets of the past of crazy stuff that, was out there that, like, I mean, how could that change the world today if we knew that, if we knew that type of information?
It's, even manufacturing processes, like how we made so many 1911s in World War II without CNCs, how many workers were in there with, single op machines making these cool guns. So that's why I always kind of challenge people with that, just to kind of see where they're going to go. And yours are really cool. You got some good history in there. There's still going to be some gunplay. I think a few places, I even feel like, maybe someone during the Bill of Rights was like, pow, shot a lead ball through the ceiling to get everyone to quiet down. So I'm good with that. We're about at the hour mark, so I don't want to keep you too long. You went to SHOT Show, I didn't. So, I'm living vicariously through you guys. What got your attention at SHOT Show this year that you were like, oh yeah?
That English 2035. dude.
Okay, yeah, from SDS
Dude.
Arms. It's
Have you got
it's
to
that
play with
great.
that even yet?
A little bit, a little bit. I've been to
Oh,
a few of
good.
our trade
Okay.
shows, so I've got my
Okay.
hands on it. I think of Flare and Bagwell, and
Yeah, I think so.
give people a few options of colors, and I think it's a really nice shooting gun.
I don't
I'm
know
not
that
the
FPV
biggest.
color. It's pretty sick.
I say this a lot, and I'm not the biggest fan of 2011s because the magazine is oversized for 9mm.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it makes the grip unnecessarily big and bulky.
Yeah.
Some people
Exactly.
enjoy that, and I think they're sweet shooting
Exactly.
guns. The P35, it definitely kind of gets in that CZ space. A good single action trigger, good capacity. I'm stoked on that one. I'm waiting for more high def thermals. I like to see thermals like come down in price, and that HD, instead of 600 or 640 sensors, get to the.
There was a company in the basement, Monstrum Tactical, which I mean, I've worked with their stuff before, and they're, they know where they're at. They're in that budget-minded optics space, but they was showing me an LPVO with a built-in rangefinder that I think is going to come in at like less than $300.
That would be cool. That would be
So
pretty darn cool.
I'm like, you talking about taking a budget optic, which $300 for an LPVO is without the rangefinders in that budget range,
Yeah,
and then adding a
a solid.
rangefinder to it. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Man, for like subsonic 300 blackout guys, that would be the bee's knees.
So
that
it's
would
not
be the bee's knees.
it's not groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination, but to be able to come in at that price point, and maybe get people that couldn't afford otherwise, into that type of a game.
I think that's again you're that's the mantra here, guys, at OK Shooter. Guns are cool. Guns are fun. You don't have to always have a $10,000 rifle scope. If there is a cool $300 rifle scope with some solid features and it does what you need it to do, buy it, enjoy it. Like the guy that buys a Zeiss or Night Force, he'll always kind of turn his nose up at you.
Right? Also realize what it is. Realize what you have. Don't say your Monstrum Tactical is good as Swarovski or whatever. Like it's not.
I always say it's relative. If it does everything that you need it to do,
it is relative. But I'm saying objectively speaking, it is not as good. It's not.
No,
but
no.
For the money, for what you're going to use it for yes, okay, it very well can be, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I think as long as the guy that buys that and the guy that has the Night Force go to the range and they come home smiling, it's a win on both ends. And I
think they will. I see that a lot where you've got the dude that's got the high end stuff, and like he's got the means and he's always got the high end stuff, so he never plays with the cheaper stuff, right? And then you got the guy that can't afford the high end stuff, and so that's all he's got. And you've got those two guys on the range, and more often than not, they end up shooting each other's stuff. And the guy that has the high end goes, "Wow, I didn't know the cheaper stuff was that good." Like it's not as good as my high end. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but it's solid, right?
We're still missing the targets.
Yep. And then the guy that of course can't afford the expensive stuff, he gets to shoot the expensive stuff. So everybody wins, right?
I'm with it. To close this out, Chris, I'll just man, thanks for coming on the show. I sincerely appreciate it. Your insight into the media and the social media thing is super, super fascinating. If you guys need to tell people where they're going to find you, again, we'll close it out on that, and then we'll leave them with a little bit of wisdom.
We're on all the platforms, so clovertech.com will help you find all of them. Pretty much that simple.
All right. So and it can be for whatever, don't piss in the wind. Don't tug on Superman's cape,
Be excellent to each other and party on, dude.
There you go.
Since we talk time travel, that's appropriate.
I agree. And everyone out there, thank you again for tuning into another episode of the Powderhorn podcast. I'm Jahred, your host. Tim, unfortunately, is on the other side of the country, so this is a solo show with our good friends over here at Clover Tech. You can find us wherever you digest your podcast, whether it's Spotify or Apple. head on over to okashooter.com. And a big shout out to our friends at Moultrie who help make this show possible. We will see you guys very soon on the range, and we are here every other Sunday Gun Day with new episodes. Till next time, guys, have a good one.